Welcome to the Everyday Game Changers podcast. You will hear from everyday people in business, music, community, and more who are changing the game. And now your host, marketing expert, and personal branding specialist, Barion McQueen.
Welcome to another episode of the Everyday Game Changers podcast. I am your host, Barion McQueen, and you know how we do each and every week, talking to game changers in business, entrepreneurship, music, community, and more. And today's guest, we finally get to meet in person, a true disruptor, my boy Tony Delgado. What's up, bro?
Hey, man. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So, I'm glad we want to get to sit down. We already done chopped it up off camera, and probably that's a whole nother episode, but walk me through, you got the Disrupt University shirt. Walk me through this Disrupt brand and community, I will call it more.
Yeah, no, definitely. I wore the shirt on purpose. It's so funny because I love telling this story. I moved to Puerto Rico, and when I moved over there, I didn't bring too much. I basically brought 2 suitcases. One of them had my clothes, normal stuff, and the other suitcase had Disrupt shirts in every single size.
Fire.
And we moved down there. We started hosting entrepreneurial events, workshops, seminars. Brought a lot of that education online. Definitely COVID helped accelerate things, like really bringing things online. But the main thesis was that all you need to succeed is Wi-Fi and a dream, right? And if you look at some of the biggest disruptive companies in the world, right? You look at Airbnb, you look at Uber. Uber, biggest car company, no cars.
Right.
Airbnb, biggest housing company, no houses.
Right.
So what that says to me as an entrepreneur who wasn't born with a silver spoon in his mouth, who quote unquote came from nothing, even though I think I came from a lot, even though if it wasn't financial, I definitely came from a lot. Right. Great upbringing, grateful to my parents and grateful to the internet and my teachers, the ones that weren't knuckleheads. I had a few good teachers that helped along the way and definitely some mentors. But if you look at it, if Uber could become Uber with no cars and Airbnb can become Airbnb with no homes, then that means that you, whoever's out there, can do whatever it is that you're trying to do regardless of your resources.
Right. That's fire. So walk me through early Tony. What's early Tony doing? This entrepreneurship book. Somebody asked me a question earlier, what was your first business or what was your first intro to entrepreneurship? And I'm like, I used to steal the other kids' bikes in the neighborhoods, strip them, and build new bikes and spray paint them. And this is Tommy. This is a new bike.
This is the new one.
But that's Brandon's handlebars, and that's my
God.
Right. So this is at 9, right? So I don't think it was about entrepreneurship. It was just about hustling to get extra money to do stuff. Right. I was just a hustler.
Well,
entrepreneur bug.
Yeah, entrepreneurs, they break rules, right? Airbnb was illegal when they started doing it. Right. Uber was illegal. Uber had a policy that if you were driving in New York City or some of these major cities that they wanted to get into and you got a ticket, they were like, listen, just get the ticket, we'll pay it.
Oh, snap.
So because they were going to war with the city at that time. So they were like, break the law. If you get a ticket for driving a taxi without a license, we'll pay the ticket.
Wow.
So, entrepreneurs, the ones that are successful, and that's why I always say that school doesn't really prepare you for business or success, because school teaches you follow the rules. There's one right answer on the test. It's A, B, C, or D. You got to pick the right one. And the chances are the right answer is not even on the paper. It's none of them. It's something new.
Right.
But to circle back, how I got started in entrepreneurship, probably something similar to you, growing up in the neighborhood. I sold Lucy's cigarettes.
Really?
I sold candy. I sold baseball cards, basketball cards. I had a clothing line when I was in first grade, second grade. They had the iron on. You could print out the shirt yourself. Yeah. So the shirt thing, that's nothing new. You could print out my first clothing line was called the Puerto Rican Players, and created this logo on MS Paint. Remember Microsoft Paint? Yeah, it was like a really pixelated logo, and had a P would look like the Puerto Rican flag. And I printed it out, and I probably sold one or two. I listened to that Biggie song, sewing tigers on my shirts and alligators, and I was like, oh, that's a great idea. I'm gonna buy these blank shirts and I'm gonna iron on stuff and sell it. But yeah, and then I sold a lot in the on eBay and Amazon. So that was my first real dip into like what I consider entrepreneurship.
Right.
Besides like the lemonade stand, the car wash,
right,
and kind of more childhood entrepreneurship. My first dip into like internet marketing and online money, internet money, was selling stuff on eBay and Amazon, e-commerce.
Got it.
And back then there was no Shopify.
Right.
Having your own website was like impossible. It was like a rocket science. You had to be a rocket scientist to do that. But eBay and Amazon were a thing. They were new. And I remember I went from like making $300 a day to $3,000 a day.
Oh shoot.
And that was always my goal. My
goal was the product?
So
various stuff, or
in the beginning I had a lot of different things that I sold. The first thing that I sold that was really successful were mixtapes.
Really?
So yeah, mixtapes. I made a lot of money. 50 Cent was like one of the hottest rappers at that time. He didn't even release Get Rich or Die Trying yet, but he was so hot. Eminem, he had signed to Eminem, and he was dropping all these mixtapes. But there was a disconnect from people that kind of knew how to use Napster and kind of download all this stuff. And then, or if you were in the street and you could actually buy the mixtapes, and actual people that wanted to listen to his music, they didn't know how to get it.
Got it.
And again, I grew up in the New York City area.
I was going to ask, where are you from?
Yeah, so I grew up in Jersey.
Okay.
But I also lived in New York for a number of years, back and forth.
Fire.
Family in the Bronx, family in Queens,
That's why
Westchester.
I used to live in the Bronx, bro.
Yeah.
Valentine Avenue.
They gotta get out of here.
Used to be down Fordham Road chasing the little Latin girls. Yes. I love that, yo. I was there for like 2 years, man.
Well, and that's the other funny thing about New York. We were talking about celebrities offline. You know, when you grow up in a big city like New York, I would assume it's similar if you're in other big cities. But New York has something special about it. You're not really impressed with famous people. You just see famous people all the time, or you know people, then they become famous. Yeah. So like, it's kind of funny. Starstruck. Yeah, you're never starstruck, you know. And they say if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere, right? Yeah. But like I remember seeing DJ Khaled in Times Square. And Times Square had, at that time, they had just built the red steps. So it's like these red steps that glow in the dark. And Jay-Z did the music video with Rihanna there. So we're at the red steps. I'm with my boy, and we're cutting it up on a table. And DJ Khaled pulls up with somebody, cuts up on another table. And I ain't go shake his hand or take a picture. No, it's just like, he there.
Yeah. I'm here too.
I'm here too. What up? I saw him. Oh, what up? I know DJ Khaled, so I'm going to give him a head nod, but that's about it. But it creates a different perspective because you're not starstruck. You're not money struck, right? Like you see wealth all around you. Even if you don't have it, you're seeing fancy cars, you're seeing big businesses, big buildings. So it's kind of a different mindset from, you know, people that come from smaller places. And I don't know if that could really be taught. You know, once you're an adult, it's kind of hard to be taught that different mindset. But so that was how I got started, was going into the wholesale district. So back to New York City. New York City has all these wholesale districts. So you can buy sunglasses, you could buy white T-shirts and print a logo on them. You can buy mixtapes and resell them and all those things. So one of the biggest things that I started selling was mixtapes. I made so much money from mixtapes. And the other thing was like T-shirts and jeans and clothing.
Got it.
And it was crazy. We were making so much money. And then all of a sudden one day, boom, you get shut down. So I was on track to become a millionaire when I was like 17. Oh shit. And then all of a sudden, because my goal was always 3,000 a day, because 3,000 a day is $1 million a year. So from a very young age, I remember,
you knew that number stuck.
Yeah, I had that number stuck. I remember learning that like a teacher had only made 30,000 in a year. And then like I made 30,000 in a month, one month, like my second or third month on eBay, I made 30,000 in a month. I'm like, wait, I'm making what they make in a year, I'm making it in a month. Wow. And like I'm doing it from home. And so, and then I did the math. Okay, if I want to become a millionaire, I need to make $1 million in a year. And it's kind of funny because I had a lot of limiting beliefs. I kind of thought that money was evil. I learned about the Federal Reserve and like some of the Illuminati and some crazy conspiracy theories. And I thought that money was evil. I knew that money was being used to create slavery and basically enslave people. But I also knew I didn't want to be a slave. So I was like, let me make as much money so that I don't end up getting stuck in the system. Wow. You know what I mean? I saw my mother struggle. I saw my family members struggle, friends, people I grew up with, living paycheck to paycheck. Yeah. And I always knew that I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to trade my time for money, and I didn't want to get stuck. So the first job that I ever had, I lied on the job application. So I was 15.
Like everybody.
Yeah, I said I was 16. And my first job was at McDonald's. So I worked at McDonald's, got my first check. As soon as I got my first check, took it and invested it, and I never looked back.
Dope.
Yeah.
So like, disrupt. Like, I'm introduced to disrupt. I'll never forget this email, and this is how I would say. I always tell people, I'm not a PR guy. Don't call me a PR guy. I just stumbled into it and was like, oh, it's some money there, right? Yeah. So this girl reaches out to me and she gives me the. Shout out to her copywriter, whoever wrote this email. It was just like everything I needed to hear. Hey, we've been looking for, entrepreneurs who are really changing the game out here. And, you came across and I wanted to see if I could do so. She hit me and she did me like a Thrive
Global, yeah.
Thrive Global, right?
Ariana Huffington
yeah.
Post.
So I'm like, oh, magazine. Man, that's dope, man. I know a little bit about SEO, and I'm like, oh, they got a high domain authority. Let's do it. She did that one for free. I'm like, cool. She's like, you know what? You really need to be on Disrupt. I'm like, okay, well, Thrive went so well. Let's do Disrupt. I'm like, what we got to do? She's like, I'm going to send you a questionnaire, and then I'm going to have my team.
Then I'm going to send you an invoice. Yeah.
Then I'm going to send you an invoice, but I'm going to send you the questionnaire, and then I'm going to have my team prepare a full feature based off these questions you answer. I'm like, oh, this sounds amazing. I don't know whoever wrote her stuff, the articles, like, oh man, it just made me feel like, oh man, this was me. Like entrepreneurship. I had just started my marketing agency. I'm like, that's fire. Then I'm like, so this shit's like, so we got the Disrupt. I paid the invoice. Let's be clear. I paid the invoice, got it up. And I'm just like, is this all you do? Like, I just straight at the next email, like, is this what you do? She's like, I just find people that's like really into the entrepreneurship space. Like, everybody need to focus on personal branding, and these articles are going to help. They're going to need it, because if somebody Googled you and nothing comes up,
and if you don't tell your story, somebody else will. Right? So
this was allowing me to stumble into this entrepreneurship space. But your website and Kivo Daily was like the two.
Yeah, I know Kivo.
So when I looked at Dylan Kivo, she did one for him, but I think I didn't use her for him. I think somebody on his team did it without just kind of like earned or whatever, right? But I didn't connect with Dylan's personality like I connected when I seen, I want to know these people that own these things, these platforms, these publications. I connected better when I looked at your stuff, your Instagram, your social media, your interviews. I'm like, that guy is more relatable to me than.
Well, to be clear, Disrupt Magazine started out as my magazine and my podcast to publish my shit. So that's how it started.
Let's be clear.
All these contributors, now we got over 2,000 contributors. Damn. And I know there's 100 people in the DM, 100 bots in DMs getting people in the Disrupt. But it was just my magazine for my shit, my stories, my events, my podcast. You click podcast, it was just me. Wow. So yeah, it was just my publication. And then I had a few buddies of mine who were doing press and asked me for contributor accounts. So one of them, shout out Nathan Ortega from Influencer Podcasts. He has an agency that helps people get featured on podcasts. Okay. And his business partner or business associate, Ulysses, from Influencer Press.
Okay, yeah.
So, and then they had a whole team of people. They're like friends and all
Tice and all of those guys.
Tice and all these dudes.
Remember that.
Yeah,
I remember this time.
So I flew out. This was before COVID.
You had everybody in Puerto Rico, right?
Yeah. Well, before I went to Puerto Rico,
y'all did something there.
I went to see them. So they live in this
already.
crazy city called Tri-Cities.
Okay.
Which nobody never heard of. But shout out to Tri-Cities. It's beautiful. I went there for a day. And I was coming from John Malot's wedding.
Okay.
And Nathan hits me up. He's like, yo, I'm with all these dudes. And like, we want to start our own companies and da-da-da. And we're da-da-da. So like, basically, I was like, all right, let me come check you, because I was already in Arizona. I was like, that's a little, that's like an Uber flight. That's like a little $80 Uber flight. So I was like, let me just come check you because I'm on the West Coast.
Yeah.
So I went, I met with them, and then I gave them all contributor accounts. And then they had Skills Impress, but I also had my own Skills Impress that they didn't know.
Right.
So I worked with them. I taught them things that I knew. They taught me some things that they knew. And then they were kind of the first, I want to say, consistent contributors. We probably had a few other random ones, like people that I didn't know in person. But those 5 dudes were crazy. It
was like you created, that was like the first mastermind, right?
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
that, right?
Oh yeah, and
Sergio and all those guys.
Yep. Shout out to all those dudes. Sergio, Tice, and I flew down. They were young, you know what I mean? They're like probably 10 years younger than me. And they actually got me a hotel at the nicest hotel in Tri-Cities. It was nice though. I'm being funny, but it's not like a rich or name brand. Yeah. It was like a cabin. It was cool. It was really, really cool. It was like this cabin. It was like some boutique hotel, but really dope. And they got me a suite for free. So they basically showed my Instagram. It's like, yo, this guy's famous. Like, you gotta give him a suite for free, right? And like, I go to fucking the Ritz-Carlton. They don't give a fuck about me. But I guess in Tri-Cities, I'm famous, right? So they show my Instagram, and then they get me a suite for free. And then when I get into the suite, Nathan's crazy ass, he had owed me some money. When I open the door, he puts money all over the room like a stripper. And I'm like, bro, what is this? He's like, nah, bro, it's abundance. We're going to kill it. We're going to crush it. And that's the money I owe you. It's on the floor. You got to pick it up. I'm like, what? I mean,
that's funny.
Damn.
That's stories, though.
But yeah, so we had this mastermind there, and I took them all to dinner. And then they were the first people that were really rocking out as contributors that were not just me. Before that, it was really just me writing. Yeah. And they were writing for me before I met them. Mm-hmm. But then once I met them and once we started like gearing up, they just started going crazy. And then I opened up, and I actually got this not from Kivo. I think Kivo might have got this from me. I don't remember. But I actually got this from Thrive. So I was studying Thrive Global, and they had a little button that was like, become a contributor. And I was like, I'm going to put a button that said become a contributor. So I worked out the plugins, and I was actually a WordPress developer. I was like a coder. Really? That's a whole other part of my life.
Yeah, I've seen your checklist start coming when we start contributing. Yeah, yo, make sure you put the back link. And I'm like, yo, Tony not fucking playing. I need to start updating hip hop doses shit, because y'all forgetting featured images and y'all just getting loose with it.
Well, and
I took a lot of that from your disrupt shit though.
Well, so that's if you're gonna be loose with the contributorship, which is we made it open to the public, right? Which is like, it's dangerous because anybody could just click, I want to become a contributor. Yeah. But if you're gonna be loose there, then you have to be tighter on the publishing and on the contributor guidelines. Yeah, so we have a bunch of contributor guidelines that are built in. Yeah, so like you can't publish without a picture. You can't publish if your article's too short. No, because people are crazy.
And I see
they copy and paste their LinkedIn bio and try to push it as an article. Yeah. I'm like, bro, that's not an article. That's 2 sentences. I
seen it. I'm like, oh, see, Tony tightening up. I gotta use some of this shit. I'm in the WordPress like, yo, checklist plugin. Like, I need everybody. I need your tags, your category. Yeah, I'm like, okay, that's how you do it, right?
But so that's what we did. So we opened it up and we just put a little button. It was like, hey, get featured, right? Yeah. And we were getting a lot of traffic. And then that was something that I probably did different from Kivo. Shout out to him. I did different than New Theory is a good friend of mine who his magazine predates Disrupt by a little bit. Okay. But all my colleagues, associates, friends in the industry who had online magazines, they would just put ads everywhere. They were just desperate to like just get a click so they could make 5 cents. So I had an online magazine. My old magazine was called Hype Eater, and this was in 2008.
Yeah.
I had an online magazine, and I made 6-figure income from my online magazine from AdSense, right? But when I had started the Disrupt magazine, like I said, it was for me, and it was my brand, and I knew that looking back at the 6 figures that I was making per year from it wasn't nothing compared to the millions of views I was giving them. They were getting millions and millions and millions of views, and I was getting pennies. So when I did it this time with the magazine, I was like, I don't want to sell my traffic. And if I do sell my traffic, I want to sell them to something I'm doing. If I have an event, I have a mastermind, I have a book, or I want to feature somebody's app or somebody. Right now, there's an app featured on the site. That's an app that me and some of my friends and family members, and we have this investor club where we invest into certain things. But it's an app that my whole crew is invested into.
Oh, fire.
So I'm going to promote that,
of course,
rather than give the clicks away for free to Google.
Yeah.
So I made the Zuckerberg sort of move to, instead of being MySpace with all the ads, I want to be Facebook. And if there is something that's a sponsored thing, I'm going to control the experience, and I'm not just going to throw Google ads everywhere. So I think that really helped, and we really prioritized the customer experience over just trying to monetize too early.
Got it.
And now if I threw ads on it, I probably would make $200K a year easy. But
so, like, for the person, walk me through, like, because I didn't know that was just a situation like, yo, this is just for me, and it just turned into...
no, and I was making money. I already had my business. That it wasn't for me to make money, so I'm like, I'm not gonna put ads on it. And actually, forget all the smaller publications I just mentioned.
Yeah.
Go on Forbes or Entrepreneur without an ad blocker. It's a terrible experience.
100%.
You much better go on a Disrupt and read an article. Go on fucking Forbes, there's 20 ad blockers. And then if you even have, there's 20 ads everywhere. And then you have an ad blocker on, they got another ad on top of it to tell you to turn your ad blocker off. That's a horrible, horrible, horrible experience. So the approach that I took was like, listen, I'm not going to put ads. If I have an event coming up, a mastermind, a book launch, something, I'll promote my own things. But for the most part, the whole platform is ad free, and it's just contributor supported.
Yeah.
You know,
I think I seen, like, when I was just like, you know what, I used to be in the music business, and I started getting around some other entrepreneurs that didn't give a fuck about the music industry. Like, this big money people that's pennies to them, music money, right? So I go to this millionaires brunch. My friend is like one of the concierges at the hotel. He's like, I'm gonna get you on this list for the millionaires brunch. I'm like, yo, put me on, bro. I'm there. I show up and I start networking and meeting these guys, and one of the guys asked for my Instagram, and I couldn't give him my rapper Instagram. I never forget this. November 18th, 2018 was the first day I took my personal brand serious, bro. And I'm like, yo, I'm gonna go by my real name. Forget that character when I was doing music, and it changed everything for me. So, like, when people come to me and they like, oh man, how'd you get here? And I'm like, yo, I didn't have the capital to invest in personal branding, so I had to re-engineer, right? I'm looking at the people that's in the space that I'm in, the Ty Lopez's, the Grant Cardones, the Gary V's, and Tony Robbins, and I'm just reverse engineering. Oh, okay. Oh, they contributors on accounts and sites, getting a message. Oh, they publish books, and I literally followed the recipe, bro.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, but this is what I'm telling people. What you're seeing, this is 4 or 5 years worth of work that went into doing this. Like, because I didn't know this contributor thing, and now they like, oh man, I found you on Muck Rack and all of these. I don't even know what none of this stuff is. They like, oh man, we seen you write for Hip Hop Weekly, and I think this is how I got my.
Well, me and my wife were on celebritymarried.com or some shit. Yeah, it's so funny. You Google
your
it,
shit, man,
and
it's crazy.
It comes up. Yeah,
I feel like the PR space for me got so messy after COVID that I was just like turned off by PR. And it was just because I felt like everybody had access to something that kind of everybody didn't never know about. And then everybody just fucking hoarded out.
Well, you know, it's so funny. Speaking of COVID, so when COVID happened, I started doing these, you could almost call them like emergency announcements, emergency meetings.
Okay.
Every day for the 14 days to slow the spread. I was doing a live on Zoom at, I think it was 7 p.m. Oh, so here's the crazy thing. COVID happens, and in Puerto Rico, the lockdowns were so strict that you couldn't leave your house after 7.
Oh, snap.
It was like a real lockdown. They would buzz your phone, and like if the cops caught you out, it was like a $5,000 fine. It was crazy. So I started doing this quarantine radio, Disrupt Quarantine Radio.
I seen some of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was bringing on guests for some of them, that some of those turned into podcasts, but some of them was just me spitting.
Yeah.
And telling people, yo, y'all got to get some money because the world's about to end and da-da-da-da. And so I taught for free to people that were in my community a bunch of game, and some of it was about press. And people went on to become millionaires, get blue checks, start whole businesses. I just talked to dude the other day. I put him onto some game at the beginning of COVID. He's like, bro, I don't have to work anymore. My wife don't have to work. We work from home. We sell press. We do marketing. We sell marketing services. Wow. And I got my website. He shows me the website. He's like, call that number. That number is the FiOS house phone. I know that's the business line. People call, and they don't even know it's me. And I'm selling them. My wife is selling them stuff.
Wow.
And people created whole business models
crazy
out of game that I was spitting on COVID because I thought the world was going to end. I wanted to put people onto something because people, whatever job you had was canceled. Yeah. They would cancel people's jobs. 100%. So I was like, all right, let me at least spit the game that I know because I know it can help some people. So I'm not saying all the press people came from me, but I definitely put people onto a whole bunch of game.
Yeah. I feel like you like one of the godfathers of the PR space.
They call me the what is it? The internet mafia.
Internet mafia. I like it. I like it because like I put you with that like.
Well, and the way that I move, so a lot of people are very grimy and shady and
100%
greedy and then. Like I don't really, like I almost give it away for free. Right. A lot of the game because I don't really care. This is just one part of 100 other things that I do. I got money in crypto. Right. I got money in real estate. I got like 4 other businesses. So this is just one chess move, the press thing.
Right.
And at the end of the day, I also have an abundant mindset that my mindset had to switch. Yeah. So depending on where you grew up and what your upbringing was, you're taught a bunch of lies. You're taught that money is evil. You're taught that if I make $1, I had to take it from someone else, right? Think of the words we use, filthy rich. I was speaking to somebody and they had all these limiting beliefs about money and they told me, I don't want to be filthy rich. I was like, what makes you think rich people are filthy? Yeah. I was like, all the rich people I know are very clean. They have a lot of time to shower. They have the best soap. And to talk not only about being funny with the dirty thing, but also their money is usually very clean. You can't go around robbing people and doing shady business deals and you think that's how you're going to get to the top. Yeah. That's a lie that we've been sold. You have to operate with extreme integrity. The more money you make, the more integrity you need to move with. And what I've learned from doing business with and networking with millionaires and billionaires and badasses is that the dudes that are working at that level, they have so much integrity, it's scary. You know, and look at Dubai. Dubai's a great example. You could leave a Rolex on the floor, you could leave a wallet with hundreds of thousands of dollars in it, and you come back an hour later and it's always there. And if you go to, it's not only in Dubai, go stay in a really expensive hotel and you will see the same thing. Go stay in the most expensive hotel and leave a wallet there with a bunch of hundreds of dollars in it and all $100 bills. Leave your laptop. I leave my MacBook anywhere. Because when you're operating with people they're not gonna, those things don't happen and they're not gonna do a bad business deal. You know why? Because your word and your reputation is all you have.
100%.
So I don't want to go and do a bad business deal. Then people are going to know me as the guy that does bad business deals.
Guy.
Yeah. It was so funny. I met a billionaire when I had first moved down to Puerto Rico. Dude was, I don't want to give too much personal stuff because he's a real private dude, but he had just done what's called a roll-up. So a roll-up is when you take a bunch of smaller companies, you buy them, you put them all together and you sell them as one big company, right? And this is a strategy. Dan Pena teaches this strategy in his mastermind. Dan Pena is the old crazy guy that he has the castle. And so he teaches this strategy, but it's a strategy that's very well known in business. Then you'll sell it to a private equity company.
Okay.
So, for example, let's say I'm just going to use a simple example everybody could think of. McDonald's. I want to sell a company to McDonald's. What I would do is I would buy all these food trucks, put them together, make a food truck franchise, and then I go over to McDonald's or Chipotle or Panera or Starbucks, and I say, hey, listen, I have 100 locations, 2 in each state. Do you want to buy this food franchise, right? And I'm using that as a simple example. He did it in the medical industry, right?
Fire.
And
like
and
a
he
portfolio build.
a portfolio build out, yeah. Okay. And he built out a $700 million exit for himself. And he did it in like 3 or 4 years or something. And so he was moving to Puerto Rico so that exit would be taxed at 4%. So that's a big thing about Puerto Rico.
I was going to say, talk to me. I just had, no, I want to talk about it. I just had Luke Lentz.
Yes,
one of the high key
guys. I know him. Yep. Yeah, he moved down.
Everybody, and I'm like, everybody, but he just had an Instagram post from the guys from Barstools, and they're like reviewing people's bios that they don't know, and they like, oh, Luke Lentz, 1 million followers on Instagram. This is a guy living in Puerto Rico, smart guy, tax breaks. Talk about what that is, though, the tax breaks for being in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, so Puerto Rico has a program. It used to be called Act 20. It's now called Act 60, is the new version. And essentially, if you move to Puerto Rico from the U.S. or anywhere in the world, there's a program where you can pay 4% corporate tax and 0% capital gains. And yeah, and the only prerequisite really is that you're doing an export services based business. So it means if you have a marketing agency, a consulting agency, online courses, a call center, really any type of consulting that could be considered an export of the service, and your customers are not located in Puerto Rico, that income qualifies to be taxed at 4%.
Wow.
Now there's some rules to it. You have to donate to a nonprofit every year. It really only makes sense. Like, I've met a lot of crazy entrepreneurs that like they're making zero money and they want to move down there. It really only makes sense, I think, if you're making at least $1 million or more, in my opinion, or $500,000. And I'm talking about in profit, right? So like you could be making 6 figures, but my whole thing is if you're only making $100K, you should be able to write off a lot of those expenses as business expenses, and really your tax burden is not that crazy. But when you start making 7 figures and 8 and 9, then you end up with all this extra profit, and the government's going to basically take half if you leave it here. So if you relocate your business down there, you pay a 4% flat tax on top of some other filing fees and donations to nonprofits and stuff. And you're able to basically save a bunch of money. And then you also pay 0% on capital gains. Okay. So capital gains are classified as like trading stocks, trading crypto, anything that's like an investment where like you're just putting money and your money's making money for you. That's taxed at 0%. So literally, if you were making money in crypto, that's why all the crypto people moved down to Puerto Rico. You're making money in crypto, you're making money in the stock market. It's a really, really advantageous place to move. And because of that, Puerto Rico has almost like a built-in mastermind community in it. So as soon as you move to Puerto Rico, you start networking.
You in the plug.
And there's a bunch of real heavy hitters down there. So it's been, we've been down there for 5 years. I've networked with some.
Was that your purpose in going, or was this like, that's your background, or?
No, so I went there. I didn't know about the program when I moved down there.
Okay.
We went there right after Hurricane Maria. So when Hurricane Maria struck the island of Puerto Rico, I found a problem that was bigger than myself. And, similar to how we were talking about how like Uber doesn't have cars, Airbnb doesn't have homes, right? I knew that every single person in Puerto Rico had the potential, if they wanted to achieve whatever level of success that they wanted to put their mind to, right? But they just didn't know it,
the information.
Right? The information, the access to information. But like the internet kind of democratized all of that. So like 50 years ago, 100 years ago, my ancestors came from Puerto Rico to New York. because that's where the opportunity was. Right. You wanted to get a job, you had to move to New York to get that job. You wanted to start a business, you had to move to start a business in a different country. Now that's not the case. Right. You got Wi-Fi, you can work from anywhere.
Yeah.
So I went to Puerto Rico to do humanitarian work during the hurricane.
Fire.
And I was able to work off my laptop the whole time. I was making money. I'm going Zoom calls and everything. Nice. And even though there was kind of shoddy Wi-Fi, shoddy internet, shoddy electricity, shoddy water, right? I was still able to use my phone on T-Mobile and basically get all my work done and make money.
Wow.
And I knew that when it really hit me, we were on this mountain. There was this family who hadn't had water for 6 months or something. And I got a FaceTime call and it was able to connect. And I was like, if I could connect a FaceTime call on top of a mountain, that means that this family could be running an online business if they wanted to. Could be, you don't even got to be running online. They could be doing press. They could be working a call center, right. But they could be making more money than what they're making now.
Fire.
You know? And that was the thing with the hurricane. It was like the people that were the most disenfranchised were the people with like no money and no resources. And you know, money solves a lot of problems. It doesn't solve every problem. And we could maybe get into that. Yeah. But money can solve a lot of problems. So if you can teach, it's kind of like teach a man to fish. If you can teach people to fish, you can teach people to use the internet to make money, you could democratize this information, you can make this information available to more people, well, then you're going to create more wealth, more abundance, and transform Puerto Rico. And so when I moved down there, I didn't know about Act 20. I learned about it. Right. And then I was like, hey, could a Puerto Rican from New York get this shit? Yeah. Because sign me up.
Yeah.
And so we applied for the program. We got accepted. But I also connected with a bunch, sort of this crazy ecosystem of entrepreneurs that were moving down there, and a lot of them wanted to do good. Right. You know, a lot of them are white, and there's criticism for that, just straight up. But a lot of them were Latino. Some of them were diaspora, which is like Puerto Ricans that are from there, but maybe second generation or something, and they want to move back and do something big.
Right.
And I just saw this melting pot, this ecosystem, and then you had locals who were kind of interested in entrepreneurship and technology and stuff, and they would come to these meetups and these events. And yeah, there was just a big melting pot there. That was 2017 going on 2018.
Is that the start of talk about the Latino Wallstreet, how that comes about?
Yeah, so then around that same time we started Latino Wallstreet. So Latino Wallstreet is a financial educational movement designed to teach finance to the Latino Spanish speaking community. So we have over 100,000 members in the Latino Wallstreet community, over 20 million views on social media of our video content, and students all around the world that are making money and getting smarter with their money and having their money work for them. My favorite quote about investing is Warren Buffett. Two things. Number one is, if you don't learn to make money while you sleep, you'll be working every day until you die, right? And then the two rules about money. Rule one, never lose money. And number two, never forget rule number one. Right?
Makes sense.
So, you know, there's a lot of quote unquote shenanigans that go on in the financial industry.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of Instagram financial influencers and stuff like that. A lot of people that are selling based on lifestyle and things that are not really real. A lot of it's smoke and mirrors.
Welcome to Miami.
Yeah, definitely welcome to Miami.
Yes.
So, but I'm pretty proud that we've been able to build the brand that we've been able to build and really have it be based on education,
right,
and not based on like selling a fake lifestyle. You know?
I think that's the thing with like my audience. I think appreciates, like, you know, I'll just jump on my thing and like, look, man, I've been doing business consulting for this person and he ain't paid me. I'll pull up to your building and get my check. Like, I don't play with my money.
Yeah.
So I started doing these things called Pull Up Wednesdays, where I was going around to the businesses in South Florida that I was either doing consulting work or some SEO or some marketing.
You come knock?
Yeah, on the live. Like, yo, we going in, we going to go get a check.
Collections.
Yeah, and I started getting calls from businesses like, yo, do you do this for other businesses?
Oh, wow.
Because people don't like the confrontation of
asking, of course. For money. And you're on a live. And
I'm like, oh, is this a business? Like, the collector. Like,
that's a huge business.
I didn't know that it's people that don't like confrontation. So they like, yo, I wouldn't want to do that, but I would pay somebody to go collect that money for me.
Oh, so that's one of your businesses? Sign me up.
Look, but
how much?
You see what I'm saying? So
what percentage?
My sister was like, so I was on your live and I wanted to tell you.
Well,
I know you thought it was funny.
For me, it would be a liability.
Okay.
So when I started getting money, a lot of crazy shit that I used to do, I was like, fuck, I can't be too crazy because motherfucker will fuck around and sue me.
100%.
You know, like, so I got to get other crazy people to do shit for me. Quote.
So before I end this, I want you to give me you gave me some Warren Buffett quotes. Somebody want to get into this entrepreneurship thing. And we didn't even talk about like all the other things that you do outside of, like, I don't even know. I know the real estate. I know you big in crypto, right?
Yeah.
How you get into crypto? Break crypto down quickly for me though.
All right. Break crypto.
And why you got into crypto.
Okay. So let me be real clear.
Yeah.
Crypto's a scam. Okay. It's the
what
biggest scam. I'm just letting everybody know. The biggest scam, Ponzi scheme, multi-level, fake internet money.
Yes.
Biggest scam in the whole world.
Okay.
But there's only one scam that's bigger, and that's the US dollar. That's the US dollar. And so I found out about the first scam when I was around 18, and I started going down the rabbit hole. YouTube didn't even have a like button back then, I don't think.
Dang.
And but they had all these conspiracy videos. That was pretty much all YouTube was, like cat videos and conspiracy. And so I learned about the Rothschild family. I learned about the banking system and crap, right? All this crazy stuff. It's like way too much for a 17, 18-year-old kid to consume. But I learned about quantitative easing and fractional reserve banking. Okay. So fractional reserve banking is exactly what it sounds like. They only need to have a fraction of your money in the reserve. So they could say you got $100 in the bank, but they only need $10 in there to back it up. That's what fractional reserve banking is. So for every single dollar that you put in, they can loan out 10. So that's how money gets created. Money gets created with debt. So if you can be in a business that gets people into debt, you will be able to make a lot of money in this country because we live in a debt-based economy. Our money is debt, right? So when you go to a bank and you buy a house, that's why there's so much money in real estate. You go to a bank, you buy a house, you put 5 or 10% down, they're giving the other guy a check for $500,000. Right? Where'd the $500,000 come from? You're printing money. You don't have $500,000, right? At that time of that transaction, you only put in 5% down, but now all of a sudden I'm the seller. I got a $500,000 check printed out of thin air. So, and the car industry is very similar, right? You go into the dealership, you put down $5,000 on a $50,000 car. All of a sudden, the dealer's getting the check for the full amount. So that's how money is getting created in this country. And you know, when I understood that, when I learned that as an 18-year-old, I was like, oh my God, this is a scam. This is a slavery. I don't want to get trapped in slavery. I better become a millionaire quick. Right. Now I have a little bit of a different perspective on it. And that is, it is what it is. And it's a game. And this is the game that we're all in. Right. Whether I like it, I don't like it. I think it's fair. It's not fair. They came up with the game.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good game. I mean, you could go out to the woods and chop wood.
Yeah.
And so I was a Boy Scout too when I was a little kid. So I actually saw some of that. Everybody, if you don't like America or you don't like capitalism, I have a solution for you. Go to the woods and chop wood. Do it. You could do it. Yeah. Go to the woods, find a deer, kill the deer. Don't use an iPhone. Don't complain about it on your iPhone.
Yeah.
Go to the woods, chop, live there.
Alone episode
like Survivor.
Yeah.
Light a fire. You can live off the grid. But this grid has been created. And if you want to thrive in this grid, it's a game and it has rules. It's like Monopoly. Right. That's a game that I played as a kid too. It's really good. Play that with your kids. You want them to be rich. So once you learn, okay, there's a game. The game is called Monopoly. How much property can I get? How much can I print money? Oh, wait, I can't print money. I'm not the Federal Reserve. I can't print money, right? Or I can with real estate and certain things, but it's harder for me to print money over there, but I could print money with crypto. I could print up some NFTs and sell them. I could get in on a crypto when it's first getting printed before it goes bigger, right? So you just realize that, hey, this is all a game, right? So crypto is basically a video game. It's a video game where they took the corrupt or the system that they criticize, which is the Federal Reserve, and crypto is an exact clone of the Federal Reserve, except it's a 15-year-old kid in the basement that's printing the money instead of some old white guy that probably the old white guy's doing it better, has a little more self-control than the 15-year-old kid that's robbing people on crypto sites. Okay, but that's crypto, and I criticize crypto a lot, criticize NFTs a lot. 99% crypto is a scam, 99% of NFTs are a scam. Okay, but then why am I in crypto, right? Yeah. I'm not a scammer. I don't like to scam people. The thing that started crypto was Bitcoin. Right. Bitcoin and crypto is not the same thing. Right. Bitcoin has a limit. There's only a certain amount of Bitcoins they're not making anymore. Right. Crypto don't have no limit. Yeah. So people come out with new coins all the time. That's why I'm saying 99% of this stuff is a scam. They're coming out with new coins all the time. Bitcoin is, and the crypto and the blockchain technology is an amazing innovation because it creates freedom from money. Got it. So the Federal Reserve and the banking system in the US and really globally, look what happened to Russia. I mean, they canceled Russia's banking, and they're a country with nukes. Yeah. You think they won't cancel your bank account? They canceled Kanye's bank account. You think they won't cancel your bank account? Yeah. You're just not big enough, or they don't care enough yet. Yeah. But if you piss the wrong people off in this country, they can cancel your bank account. So the interesting aspect of Bitcoin is that it's quote unquote uncancelable. Right. It's quote unquote semi-anonymous, not really anonymous. There's a record. It's actually more public than banking because there's a record of all the transactions, but you don't know who's doing the transactions unless you can prove it off the blockchain. But the blockchain just has those transactions. But so the biggest benefit of crypto is capital controls, and it's a hedge against the US dollar collapsing. It's a hedge against the US being corrupt and stealing people's money. It's a hedge against a lot of these things. I interviewed Ian Smith. Ian Smith is the gym owner from New Jersey who, when in the COVID lockdowns, they told him to close his gym. He said, F off. Walmart's open, Costco's open. There's way more people in there than there are in my little gym, and people need gyms to stay healthy so they could fight COVID. So he kept his gym open against the orders of New Jersey. Mm-hmm. New Jersey gave him a bunch of tickets. He went to court to fight those tickets. As in the United States, you're innocent until proven guilty. As he's in active litigation, they seize his bank account, seize $165,000 from the man's bank account, and the government takes it. So imagine you just go to your bank and the money's not there, right? So these are real things that can happen. Right. We saw it happen with Kanye, the same thing. Adidas sent a letter to the Chase Bank. It wasn't even the government. Adidas called Chase and was like, yo, Kanye owes us money. Don't give him shit. Yeah. Right? Adidas should have to go to court and actually prove that. Right. But Chase didn't like Kanye at that time. So Chase chose to take Adidas's word over it. And Kanye got, I think, most of his wealth confiscated or frozen or wherever it is.
They told him he had a couple of days to get his money out of there. They didn't want to do.
Well, no, but then after that, there was a second thing. And again, he's been canceled from social, so you're probably not even going to see this stuff. But after that, Adidas sent a letter to the bank and said Kanye owes us all this money. There was some stipulation in Kanye's contract that he would get paid for the marketing. He's like, my brand is worth a lot of money, so instead of you putting money on TV, just give the marketing money to me because I'm fucking Kanye. Yeah,
makes sense.
So basically, Adidas reneged on that because it was a verbal and not on contract. And then sent him money. And so I don't think they took everything, but I think they took like 500 mil real quick. So it's crazy. So all of those things, basically the money in the bank, as scary as this is, money in your bank's not really your money. Yeah. If somebody can go and take it and manipulate it. So the cool thing about Bitcoin and blockchain and all these technologies is that they can't really be messed with. Right. Now the price can be manipulated and how much somebody's going to be willing to pay for it can. Right. But the biggest reason why I'm very bullish on Bitcoin's future is that rich people don't like to have their money controlled. They don't like to have their eggs in one basket, right? We always used to hear when I was a kid, the Swiss bank account, right?
Yeah.
Well, Bitcoin's the new Swiss bank account.
Got it.
Bitcoin is a place where you're not going to put all your money, but you could put 25 to 30% of your funds into Bitcoin. You have some money on ice on the sidelines, so that if something does hit the fan, the U.S. dollar could go to nothing.
Yeah.
That's a real possibility with a dementia, 99-year-old dementia patient up there who don't know what year it is, you know? So, like...
You want to clarify that? The dementia patient?
Yeah. Brandon, what's his name? That guy. Crazy guy. But we basically got a sock puppet as a president who's taking money from Ukraine, taking money from China, taking money from everybody.
I'm just thinking about these sound bites.
His son, I'm trying to see if I can get canceled quicker than Andrew Tate. His son's sniffing cocaine off of prostitutes.
Oh my gosh. When did you make your first million? How old were you?
I was like 21.
21.
Yeah. Wow. 21.
What did you learn from that?
What did I learn from it?
Making your first million. Was it like think about in this entrepreneurship space, like the buzzword is 6 figures, right? And then they like, oh man, but once you hit 6 figures, 7 is a different beast. What does it feel like?
It ain't about how much money you make, man. It's about how much money you fucking keep. I've made mad millions. I fucking spent all that shit. The fuck?
That's it.
It's not about how much money you make. If we want to, you want a soundbite, it's not about how much money you make. It's about how much money you keep. And that lesson didn't come to me until later in life.
Right.
You know what I mean? You can make a lot of money, but we're taught in a culture and a society to spend, consume. Yeah. And I'm all for celebration, but a lot of people that I know, they ain't got nothing to celebrate. It's like, why you in the club popping bottles and doing X, Y, and you ain't got nothing to celebrate. You ain't got no money in your kid's trust fund. What's going on?
Broken mindsets.
You know? So yeah, I think that's probably the biggest takeaway that I have from making money early on was making money going broke. I'm looking at the receipts. I'm looking at the end of year statement. And I'm like, damn, I made all that money. Where'd it go? Right. And that's why, one of the things that I've really learned as I've gotten older is to get into higher profit margin businesses, right? Because you could make $1 million. That's actually really funny. You talk about the 6-figure thing. Yeah. Everybody's $1 million realtor. You sell fucking 2 condos, and you're $1 million realtor. It's like, all right, well, you made $1 million, but your percentage was 1%, and you spent that on gas. It's like it doesn't add up, you know. So again, it's not about how much money you make; it's about how much money you keep. Yeah. And you really just got to be diversified. I mean, I've lost tons of money in the stock market. I've lost tons of money in crypto. I've lost tons of money in real estate, buying shit and trying to make it work, and it doesn't work. I've lost a lot of money in human resources, right? You hire somebody, you invest into them, you build them up, and then they fail you, they let you down, they stab you in the back, they just want to play video games and smoke weed all day, they whatever. Yeah. But I've lost money in all sorts of different ways. So one of the biggest things that I've learned is you have to pay yourself first. And you can't have all your eggs in one basket. And that's why I'm happy with the direction that my finances have been going, because it's been going towards diversification. Got it. You know what I mean? You have all your money in crypto. I know a lot of people that have all their money in crypto and got wiped the fuck out. Yeah. I cashed out a bunch of stuff in the beginning of the year. I don't know if you saw, I posted. So I was big into NFTs during the bull run. And when the bull run was almost over, I got off the chip. Yeah. And so I posted it. I made over 6 figures in NFT profit. And I posted a screenshot and I was like, listen, life-changing money is only life-changing if you cash it out. You take the money off the table. Right. Fucking leave the shit in there. You're going to go back down to 0, X, Y, and Z, you know? So it's a combination of having a long-term mindset, but also knowing when to take your chips and go home, right? I've seen a lot of people have one business. They learn one thing, whether it's crypto, whether it's how to do marketing agency or something, and they'll just keep doing it on repeat. And like what got you to the level you're at now is never what's going to get you to the next level.
Right.
So like you have to keep leveling up your skills,
100%.
leveling up your strategies, right? Because what got you to 6 figures is not going to get you to 7. What got you to 7 figures is not going to get you to 8.
Of course. How do you balance being an entrepreneur and being married?
It's crazy. So me and my wife,
you gotta kind of, your wife's kind of in the space though, right?
No, yeah, me and my wife work together,
so it's a little
crazy, and be quite honest with you. But
Yeah.
I put a post on Instagram this week, and I said, "Why am I gonna marry a woman just so I could send her to work for some other man?
Ooh.
And then why am I gonna have a kid with her just to send my kid to a daycare and have another woman watch him?" So, as challenging as it has been to be a new father, my son is less than a year old at the recording of this, and we work from home. So we're at home with the kid, trying to do a Zoom call. You know, we got a nanny, but the nanny can only do so much. As challenging as that is, I will take that every day over having my wife work for another company that's not mine, and having my son being watched by somebody outside of my home and not sitting in the home with me, with my mother, and with our nanny who we love, who's from Venezuela. She's super dope.
Leave me with one last tip. For anybody want to get in this entrepreneurship space, whether they want to do crypto, they want to start a magazine, what's one piece of advice you could leave us with?
Give more than you take. And if you do that, you'll have so much more to give than you could ever imagine.
It can't get no better. You already know who it is. I'm your boy, Barion McQueen. This has been another episode, Everyday Game Changers. Make sure you follow Tony on all his social platforms, and we'll see you on the next one.